Oh man, we're live. Well, hello everyone. Tyler Cressman. Welcome to the Cressman conversation. Not really, because I guess we're not really having a thing tonight. We're just gonna be doing reaction. We're just reacting to the debates. Oh, look at this little lady. That's a nice little pink, whatever the hell that is. I kind of like it. Okay, let's see if we can't figure out how to get this stream out there. Oh wait, it's gotta be this button, right? Clicking stuff. Oh my god. Clicking it. Copy. Okay. Let's go to the Facebook. Put it up on the thing. You know the thing. Link to it. They're starting late. They're about 10 minutes late, I guess. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe they all had that built in. It's all part of the plan, people. Start 10 minutes late. I got to figure out if this audio is good or not. Oh, I also have it muted right now because I ain't about to listen to these people talk. Why do I care about this guy? I don't care about him. The Cleveland Clinic. Oh, hey. What is his last name? Oh my god, it was entirely too long. Oh my gosh, my computer is so slow. I have all these things open right now because I'm trying to get this debate thing going. And blah blah blah. Oh yeah, it is freaking out right now. My computer is not made for this. I have a laptop that is just. It's a good laptop for word processing. It is not a great laptop for, you know, trying to stream multiple things at once. Okay, here we go. Share this. Never heard of me. Revelry. Revelry. How do you spell revelry? Revelry. Oh my gosh. I don't know if sarcasm is going to come across clear enough in this post. Come join the revelry as we proceed to make the most of these two intellectual titans spar. That. Boom. And we'll share that post on the thing. Bada bing, bada boom. Who we got here? Somebody's coming in. Blah, blah, blah. Bada, bada, bing, boom. Okay. Share that. Oh, there's a guy. Who's that? Can't tell. Oh my gosh! For a second, I thought that was Mike Huckabee, and I realized no, that's not who that is. What is his name? Oh my gosh! Why can't I not think of it? I feel like it should be up there. Do 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 do. Oh my gosh! What's happening here? Share now. Custom. Let's go. I just share that twice. Oh my gosh. Internet, this is driving me nuts. Why are you being so slow? Why are you doing this to me? Driving me crazy. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Oh man. So seriously, my internet is so bad here apparently. I mean, it's probably because of the live stream, but I have never seen it go this bad. It is being real slow. It's either my internet or the computer. I'm not 100% sure here. It's kind of nuts. Delete and delete and delete. Okay. All right. Delete. All right. I feel like it's getting a little bit better. Oh, baby. Here we go. Almost time to unmute these guys. There we go. Now I post. Okay, that should do it now. Jeebus, that was entirely too complicated. Mm-mm-mm. All right, there we go. Woo, party. My thing has a tiny, tiny bit of a delay. Tiny bit of a delay, but now we're back on it. All right. Well, as we sit here watching the empty podium, preparing to watch these two intellectual titans spar, I'm very excited. Do-do-do. So I don't know. Here's my predictions. They're both going to be terrible. That's prediction number one, because historically they're both not great debaters. Trump actually had a pretty good debate performance against Hillary Clinton, considering all things considered. Definitely, he has the only notable line from the entire 2016 debate that anyone can remember, when he dropped that "'cause you'd be in jail" line on Hillary Clinton. That was pretty amazing. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. All right. So we'll see. We will see. Oh, look at that. I think we got somebody in the house. And how's the audio? you can use the chat thingy. I think I got the audio thing figured out, but it's really hard. This live stream thing is really difficult when you're trying to use like a bunch of different things at once. So if the chat is working, which hopefully it is, you should use the chat to tell me. We'll work it out. You and I together, we're going to work this out. But it's hard to tell too because no one's talking on the debate thing, so I don't know how the audio will be over there. My audio though, how's my audio sound? Do I sound excellent? I hope that's how it is. Oh, look, here it is. Ooh, so presidential.
No.
No, somebody said something. What did he say? Is he sweating? Come on, guy. You're on TV all the time. What are you sweating for?
Good evening from the Health Education campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates. The commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments, with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates.
Okay.
This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates. As a precaution, both campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning of tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say.
Why have a crowd then?
No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
That doesn't seem like a good idea. I don't get that at all. Oh, there he is. Daddy Trump. And Sleepy Joe.
How you doing, man?
How you doing, man?
I'm well.
Did they check them for earpieces? I want to know.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight, why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's
all
the
you have to
single
say is
greatest
it's in the Constitution
student he's ever had. He's a professor for a long
That's
time
all you
at
have
a
to
great
say.
school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her, And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up.
Oh,
they had
it's a
Merrick
Joker smile
Garland,
if I've
but
ever
the
seen one.
problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
He said the
President
same thing
Trump,
like six
thank
times.
you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and looking
Thank
forward
you.
to this, Mr.
Thank
President.
you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that. And
So there have been
governing on it.
29 Supreme Court
He's in the
justices
Supreme Court
appointed
right
during
now
election
trying
years.
to get rid of
Or 29
the
nominations,
Affordable Care Act,
27 of them have been
which
appointed.
will strip
So-
20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I have nothing, I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
It's elected to the next
During
election.
that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years.
The
And the
election's
100
already
million
started.
people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly
knows
going
that.
to socialist.
Go
You're
ahead.
going to
This
socialist
is,
medicine.
we're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
Biden.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination, Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what
that
your party
is-
has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
Right
healthcare.
now, I am
And
the
they're going to
Democratic
dominate
Party.
you, Joe.
I don't
You
think
know
anyone
that.
believes
I am
that
the
Joe Biden
Democratic
is the
Party right
Democratic
now.
Party.
The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch.
Oh.
How many
How
of those
far are we in
have
before they had to
survived?
mention COVID?
Well, there's
I was
7
waiting.
million people that contracted
Couple
COVID.
minutes.
What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing conditions?
308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if
this.
you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't
the
be
deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China,
That's
which
true.
was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban,
All right, gentlemen,
which was heavily
Mr. President.
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
Much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not
Mr.
gonna be able to
President, as
shut
a
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is already
You don't know it's on the
begun.
ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is
you
it on the
said
ballot? It's not
you're-
on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a minute?
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't
don't
know her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask
Go
my
ahead.
Good
question, sir.
health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well, I'll
I
give
got
you
rid
an
of
op-
the
I'm gonna-
individual
when I finish,
mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That is
big
not a
chunk of Obamacare.
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I-
worst
I
part of
didn't ask,
Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris,
you're
that was the
debating
worst
him, not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my
Well,
question.
I'll ask Joe. The individual
no,
mandate
he's
was the
just
most
he's gonna-
unpopular
Mr. Vice Pre-
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare.
President,
I got
this
rid
is
of
just
it.
I'd like
a
And we will
match,
protect
just a
people.
bunch of
I'm the
fisticuffs.
moderator in
I'd
this
be much more
debate,
interested.
and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go ahead.
You,
Oh, baby.
in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare. And just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump healthcare plan?
Fine. Well,
Solid
first of
question.
all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something. There's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage
He's
to
got
do
a
because
show
you're
on
going against
Fox.
Big Pharma.
The guy.
Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%.
He's pretty
You
good
could have done
normally.
it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care.
What about
All of the
pre-existing
things that
conditions?
we've done,
He has not cut
insulin. I
healthcare.
give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth? So cheap. Take a look at all of the
Everything.
drugs that we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs
Okay.
because
That's
they
actually a
pay
really good
just
idea.
a tiny
As
fraction.
I say,
of
this
what we
is
do.
open discussion.
No,
Let me
but
ask
this
you
is
about,
big- this
you'll
is
be happy,
big stuff.
sir. You'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice president,
Oh.
which is he points
Little-
out
little
that you would
delay
like
there.
to add a public option to Obamacare. And
Yes.
the argument that he makes, and
He
other
just needs to let him
Republicans make,
ask his
is
questions
that is
before
going to
he
end
starts
private
freaking out.
insurance.
It is
And
not.
well,
Because all that guy was going to ask him was,
sorry.
"What are you
Ask me
doing
the
with
question.
what are you
It
doing with
will
healthcare?"
end
And he could have said all that stuff
it will
without having to
end
argue with him.
private insurance and create a government takeover of healthcare.
It does
Your
not.
response
It's
to that?
only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny
No such
people
thing
who are
as free
poor
healthcare.
Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public
He
option.
just looks
The
old.
vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option. Number one.
Joe, you
Number
agreed
two.
with Bernie
Number-
Sanders,
I-
who's
I
far
did-
left, on the manifesto,
when
we
you-
call it.
when
And that
manifest-
gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you
I'm
saying
not
you
going
didn't
to listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not
here.
by
I'm here
much.
standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left
Well,
2
I
days
tell
early.
you-
You would have lost every primary
All he knows how to
on
do is
Super
hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as
He
well.
did get very lucky.
And
Super
tonight I'm going to
Tuesday.
make
what?
sure because
With what?
here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far.
I think
is
Trump is
simply a
just
lie.
trying to
I'm
get
not
under
here to call
Biden's
out his
skin
lies.
because
Everybody
whenever he
knows
gets
he's
a little
But you
agitated,
agreed.
he
Joe,
starts
you're the
getting a
liar.
little
I want to
confused.
make sure.
Graduated
I think this is
last in
actually
your
a
class, not
tactic.
first in your
I-
class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
He doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Joe.
guy,
Go
the
on,
wrong
Joe.
night at
Go.
the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
whole
manifesto.
idea-
Let
Now you're
him,
disavowing it.
There
Go ahead.
is no manifesto, number
please let
one.
him speak, Mr.
Oh my
President.
Number
gosh.
two,
You just lost the left.
number two,
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
folks,
that's absolutely agreed
folks, do you
to,
have
and
any
under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this clown's
socialized,
doing?
They call it
Mr.
do you
Medicare,
have any
President.
do?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I tell
President,
you what, he is
Right.
not for any help for people needing health care
Who is
because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two,
yeah.
there are 20
Oh.
million people getting health care
PUBG
through
winner takes
Obamacare
all
now
by
that he
two
wants to take it
damn near
away.
80-year-old
He
men
won't ever look you in the
game
eye
would
and say
last
that's what he wants to
for
do.
about 5
Take it
minutes
away.
before
No,
the
I
first
want to give
circle
them
Number
closes.
better
three.
health care at a
But-
much lower price
And
because
by the way, he
Obamacare
doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
gentlemen, you
Obamacare
realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better. And I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the
Not
individual
true.
mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed,
Yeah, they need to stop
they
talking
shouldn't
over
even
each
call it
other.
Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay. I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known
just
for.
had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what his
So
people said.
we do
No,
want to
no,
get
no.
rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to
cheaper
give
and
you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
Please.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a healthcare plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett,
Which
there
they
has
will.
been talk about
definitely
ending
will.
the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices. Distraction by the president, but in fact, it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in
Well, I'm
the
saying-
Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will
this is a good
support
question.
either ending the filibuster
Very
or
good question.
packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should
The fact
speak.
that he can't say no
You should
is
go
really
out
troubling.
and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and
If you
let your
can't say
senators
no, I'm
know
not
how
going to
strongly
not
you
end the
feel.
filibuster, and
Let-
no, I'm not going to
vote
pack
now.
the Supreme
Pack the
Court.
court.
Make
That's
sure you,
really
in fact,
troubling.
let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why would
because
you answer that
because
question?
the
You wanna
question
put a lot
is-
of
the
new
question
Supreme
is-
Court
That's
justices-
nuts.
the
That's nuts that
radical
he
left-
can't say
will
no.
you
Who
shut
is
up,
on,
man?
listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on your
so,
list?
All right, gentlemen,
This is,
I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack the
unprecedented.
court.
That
We
is
have
so-
I'm not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
The
Keep
the
the other, man.
filibuster
People
is
understand.
basically what
Joe.
allows
47 years, you've done
the
nothing. They understand.
people in the
All right.
Senate to delay
The second
votes
subject
on
is COVID-19,
certain
which
bills
is an awfully
and
serious
such.
subject. So
There are certain rules in the
let's try
Senate
to be
that are really
serious
weird.
about it. We have had
That
more than
if they
7
delay a
million
vote, if something's brought to the
cases of
floor and it's
coronavirus
delayed for a
in the
certain amount
United
of time, they
States, and
basically
more
just
than
have to pack it in and don't vote
200,000
on it.
people
So it's kind of
have
used
died.
if you don't
Even
want to vote
after
on
we
certain
produce
topics.
a vaccine.
So that's what
Experts
that
say that
is,
it could be
basically.
months or
It's a
even
way for
years
a party not in power
before we
to
come back to
stop people from
anything
pushing certain things through.
approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so
All these
far
books.
and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population. 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID.
Those numbers
In
don't
addition
sound
to
right. Is
that,
right?
about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do?
It's a good line.
He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan.
Wrong.
I laid out
Sir,
back
it's
in
his 2
March
minutes.
exactly
it's so
what we
wrong.
should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open, open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap
Out of
and
your
get
bunker.
in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the
Joe Biden's
Democrats
been
and
hiding in his
Republicans
basement
and
for like
fund
6
what needs
months.
to be done now to save lives.
So if
Wait,
we
wait,
would have listened to
You have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200. One person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist and he's xenophobic.
That is 100%.
Because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
Wait
Wait a
It's
minute.
his 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By
That's
my
Joe
doing
Biden's
it
big
early, in
problem,
fact,
is that
Dr.
it's
Fauci
actually
said
100% accurate.
President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. People that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do
done.
very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very
economic
different
recession.
disease,
Sir,
though.
you made a
There was-
point.
Far
there
less
was no
lethal
recession.
disease,
You made a
by the way.
point. Let him answer.
And there was no one, we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning?
It's impossible
and had
to
an empty
blame
chair at
Trump
the
for
kitchen
shutting
table
down the
because someone
government
died
when
of
he
COVID?
was against that.
How
basically
many
from
of
the
you were in
beginning.
a situation
and
where you lost your
governments are shut down
mom
all
or
over the
dad, and
world,
you
so
couldn't
it's
even speak to
not
that
necessarily
nurse
Trump's fault.
holding the phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye?
You would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And,
You would have been
and by the way,
months late.
your own
You were
his
months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save
I don't
half
think he said
those
that.
numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen,
and
let me move on to questions about the
That
future,
idea that
because
we
you both
don't
have touched
trust
on one
Trump
of the
and
two
we're
of
not
the
going to trust the
questions I'm going
vaccine
to
is
ask.
so weird. Like he's down in
Focusing on
the
the future first,
laboratory with
President
some
Trump,
beakers
you have
coming up,
repeatedly
pouring liquid,
either
coming up with a
contradicted or
vaccine.
been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them left, I don't know what I call
the head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui,
I disagree with both of them. And he didn't be there, but he could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
He said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before
Internet.
November 1st.
Calm down.
It could also
I'm
be
talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This
delivering.
is the same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter
Okay.
this would be gone away.
Woo.
By the warm weather, it'd be gone.
We are
Miraculous,
struggling
like a
here for
miracle.
whatever reason.
And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
Oh, he didn't
This
say
is the
that.
That was
same man.
said sarcastically.
That was
I know
he
that.
didn't
I-
say
That
I-
was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine.
Oh no. I don't know what happened to the internet, but it just went.
Question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists,
Oh my
but they
gosh.
can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight.
We're having a freak out
Your
here,
running
people.
mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, suppressed, given the fact that polls already show that
Okay.
people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant.
Oh my
And by
gosh.
the way,
Spoke to the
and Fauci-
scientists that are in
by
charge.
the way,
They will have
and
the vaccine very
does-
soon.
Don't know what that.
Believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID. He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening.
Damn, damn, damn. All right. Let's see if I can't fix this. Ugh. Hold on, people.
Now it's being built again.
You see,
and it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
So far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because you need to be able to reopen with the PPE
All right.
as well as with the sanitation they need.
I guess
you have
this
to
is where
Tell
provide
that to
them
Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
It had a
Tell
little
it to
freak
Nancy
out
Pelosi.
on the internet.
And
All right,
Schumer,
by the
Brian
way,
I think we're back.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the
Okay.
Senate.
But-
And he sits on his golf course. And well, I mean,
Nah.
literally,
Okay.
think about it.
You probably
All right,
play
think
more than
about
I
it.
do, Joe.
Oh,
What about this question of reopening?
Joe Biden's not out there playing
He
golf.
wants to shut down this country,
oh.
and I want to keep it open. And we
You
did
get-
a great
he
thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it down.
shut-
Governors all. One of the reasons they shut is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election.
All right,
on
I wanna-
November
I wanna
3rd,
move the
because
subject-
it's a
I wanna move
political
on to another
I've gotta
subject.
But
respond.
those,
I
but
wanna
those
move-
states,
gentlemen, I
those
wanna move
states
on to
are
another
not
subject,
doing well that are down
which is
right
gotta
now.
respond to that.
Once they
President
shut
Trump,
down the
you
whole
have
country.
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates.
A stupid thing to say.
Questioning
No, I think masks
efficacy
are
of
okay. You have
masks?
to understand, if you have a mask right here, I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
That's not true.
No,
The CDC
well,
said the
Dr.
opposite. The World Health
Dr.
Organization
Fauci said the
He did
opposite.
not
I
say
want to
the
ask you, we
opposite.
got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm
wanna
okay
ask-
with masks.
I
I'm
want to
not
ask you
fighting
both about
masks.
one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
Because nobody will show up.
people with.
What's
With-
true?
He
Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case,
Even made the
why
moderator
you
laugh.
holding the big rallies? Why you not? You goes first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you
I've
not
done a
worried
great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
That's-
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've
Come
had
on.
no negative effect. And we've
Well,
had 35, 40,000
all right.
people
You wanna-
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up, because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the
Joe
social
Biden,
distancing,
meanwhile, was
the people
having
wearing masks.
Rallies
encouraged him not
in
to.
March.
All right.
Ben, he's a fool.
He's
If you could
criticizing
get the
Trump for
crowds,
not doing
you would have done the
things
same
in
thing. But you
February.
can't. Nobody
But
cares.
he
Gentlemen,
had-
can we
he
move
was
on
still
to the
having
economy?
rallies in
Gentlemen,
mid-March.
can we move on to the economy?
Yes,
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown
much
This-
faster.
in the second quarter. The unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
Hopefully, it's
So
a
we built the
V-shaped
greatest
recovery.
economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people between drugs and alcohol and
Firm
depression,
words.
when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening at some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, You got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost, it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're
That's
now
not the
moved
most
to
coherent he's been all night. Although
as I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery.
People don't know what
What's
a
the
K-shaped
difference?
recovery
The difference
is.
is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just, yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything
Joe
about
Biden
making it better for you
Trump.
all
I have
at
yet
home
to hear him say
in
what
terms
his
of your
actual
health and
plan
your
is.
safety.
Anyone know?
Schools.
Has he said one
Why
thing?
are schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me. He made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools. No, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
all right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took
gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns.
I went... you'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. If you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and I built a great
I'm asking you a specific question, which is.
Let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all of that. No, Mr. President,
go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So not $750.
Millions of dollars. And you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see it. But let
And
me just
Shalom.
millions of dollars.
Chris, let me just
all he
say
has to say is I
something,
paid millions of dollars
it
in
was the
taxes.
tax
I don't know
laws.
how much I
I
paid
don't
in
wanna
federal
pay
tax
tax
compared to
because
state
before I
tax, but I
came
paid
here,
millions of dollars.
I was a private developer. I was a
It's probably
private
not true,
business
by the way,
people.
but that's what he
Like
should
every other
say.
private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build the building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a
Okay.
massive, which by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now the man got fired
No,
right after that happened, but
Vice
that's
President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes on the money a school teacher makes is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code.
That
And he
seems
does
true.
take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And
Good.
I'm going to eliminate those tax
Okay.
Why
cuts
don't you eliminate the
and
whole
make sure
tax
that we
code
invest in the
and
people
have
who
a
in
flat
fact
tax?
need the help. People out there
Seems like
need
the best
help.
way
But
forward.
why didn't
I
you
was
do it
gonna-
over the last 25 years?
Because you
wanna-
weren't
why didn't you
president.
do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years? No,
screwing
no,
things
no.
up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing,
Okay,
including
gentlemen.
fixing the broken military that you gave me, including
let's-
taking care
We're
of your
talking,
vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be
Yes,
elected
ma'am.
president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what
That's
is
true. Take a look at the
analysis
Laffer
done by
curve.
Wall
Any
Street firm.
basic
Points out
economics
that
textbook.
my
The more you
my
increase
economic
taxes, the
plan
less
would
revenue you
create
bring in.
7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But
in
respectfully,
America.
sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
By the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you
Not
do
true.
it before?
Billions of
when you were
federal
vice
taxes,
president
they
with
don't pay,
Obama?
but they
Because
pay
you, in fact,
millions of dollars
passed
in other
that.
taxes.
That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what
Yeah,
happened?
you got it done.
Our economy boomed
And,
like it's never
and
boomed.
the economy
Well,
is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me
wait,
finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct? But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929.
Yeah, it's easy to
It
add
was the slowest
a lot of
recovery.
jobs when
Also,
you're coming out of a
they
recession.
took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the
That's a good
slowest
point.
economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies-
already here, they'll leave for
Hardly any
other
companies
places.
have
They will
poured in
leave,
here.
and you will have a
Have it.
depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew
booming.
it. He
It
blew
wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery
Well, sir, is it
since
fair to wait? Is it fair
1929.
to say he blew it when, in
When
fact,
COVID came in.
when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in a hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris. Wait.
Number two.
It would take, no, you're on number 2.
No.
Chris, they said it would
This
take
guy.
a miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They
He
gave up
brought
on
back
manufacturing.
700,000
We did not
jobs,
standard
but he
fare.
did it through
I'm the guy
subsidies
that brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile
cost a
manufacturing.
whole
Let
bunch
him
of
know.
We
taxpayer
brought
money.
back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan,
No,
went to
They're
Ohio.
not having
And
that.
they
Mr.
didn't
Vice-
come
wait,
in
wait,
with
wait,
you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China
This guy
now than
trying
we
to
did
say he's
before.
going to be tough
We have the
on China
highest
is
deficit,
just
trade
kind of
deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch
All
down
right, gentlemen,
18%.
in-
China ate your lunch, Joe. And no
But-
wonder
They
your son
ate
goes
your
in and he
lunch.
takes out what he takes out
Oh.
billions of dollars, takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is
Simply
it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that.
deserve
Wait, wait,
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
None of that is true.
Oh, really?
It's
He didn't
totally,
get
But no,
$3.5 million?
Mr. President,
it's
did.
Mr.
totally,
President, please. You've
totally
asked a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Is
Mr.
that
Vice,
He got
Hold on.
$3.5 million.
is that discredited?
it
I
is
hadn't
not
heard
true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh,
President,
But Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
with
President,
no
My
job?
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he
and
did.
That's
Mr.
not true.
Only
President,
guy that
That's
let him
definitely
answer.
not true.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been totally, thoroughly
By
discredited.
who?
And
The
Ukraine.
media.
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse to
allies, by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone has discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the people
President,
who
please stop.
testified under oath.
So let me
Under
ask you
oath.
this,
Under-
Joe.
under
No,
oath.
go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to
Even the
you.
people under
You got $3.5
he
million from
testified-
Moscow.
he testified under oath in his administration, said, I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I did
really?
it
I'd like to know
honorably.
who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
fire
people who
them.
testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a
Some
good
because
job.
Some people don't do
Well,
a good
here's
job. With you,
Go
they
ahead.
say
You
we're
get
here's
the,
the
wait a
deal.
minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This
Oh,
Hey,
so
let me just tell you,
Joe
No, no, no.
Biden's son
Mr. President,
$3.5 million
was
President.
on a
That is
Ukrainian
simply-
gas.
why did
Not
he
true.
deserve
Company
$3.5 million from
It-
Moscow?
that-
Look,
He
here's
has
the
no
deal.
experience in the
We
energy
wanna talk about
sector whatsoever. When
families
Joe
and
Biden was
ethics.
vice president, he was
I don't
on
wanna
the
do that.
board of a
I mean,
Ukrainian
his
gas
family, we
company,
could
and they
talk
paid him
about all
almost
night.
$200,000
His
a
family's
month
already-
to do
family
this.
let him-
basically.
my family
And
lost
then
a
at the
fortune by
end,
coming down
as
and
that was
helping
going
us
on,
with
Joe
government.
Biden was
And that's
taking
such a-
the lead
right here.
in
That's
Ukraine
such a
Every single one of them
policy.
lost
This
under
is not
Obama.
about my
President.
family.
So
or his
basically,
family. It's about your family.
Ukraine was trying to
American
buy
family.
influence
He doesn't-
through
that's not
Joe
true. It
Biden's
doesn't
son
want to talk
by
about
leveraging him.
what you
And
need.
then
You,
he went
the
to
American
China
people.
and took a whole
It's
bunch of
about
money from
you.
China, kind
That's
of the
what we're
same
talking
deal.
about.
And then he
All right,
was
that's the
paid
end of
$3
the
million by
segment.
the mayor of
We're moving
Moscow
on.
in what looks like some sort of
Vice
human
President,
trafficking
no.
thing.
Can I be honest? It's
That
a
one
very
hasn't been
private-
fully
No,
vetted yet.
I-
But
I
Joe
said-
Biden's son's
No,
not.
the answer
very
to the
good
question
dude.
is no.
And
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With a
this,
billion
so this,
dollars.
I don't know what he's saying.
It's
Whether
ab-
it's
you know what, you're
discredited. I haven't
not
heard that.
true.
one.
You're-
doing it.
You're going to
Not
have,
true.
gentlemen,
Is-
I hate to raise
Chris,
my voice,
he's
but I
on
see it seems
tape.
to be, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the
That's a
deal.
good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment,
Someone just
we
texted me.
each are going to have 2
Joe Biden
uninterrupted
reminds me of an
moments.
old
In those
Owen
2
Wilson.
uninterrupted minutes, Mr.
I can
President,
kind
you
of
can
see
say
it. I
anything
can
you
kind of
want.
see it.
I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served
In summation,
if
right
we
there.
allowed both people
Hunter
to speak
Biden, Joe
with
Biden's son.
fewer
not-
interruptions. I'm
oh.
appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well,
Um,
and him too.
Well, frankly,
not a
you've been
good dude.
doing more interrupting
Well, that's
than
all
he
right,
has.
but he does plenty.
He
Well,
seems
less
to be
than, sir, less
There's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have.
real shaky.
Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you
Kyle, you're
to
always
launch
everywhere.
this run for president.
I want to go to Thailand with
President
you. You got to show me around.
Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole America.
God, that sounds
But
awful.
we've never accomplished it.
People who don't know what the
Never
word
walked
equity
away from it
means.
like he has done. It is
It's
true.
not-
The reason
not a
I
good
got in the
thing.
races when those people,
It sounds
close
nice,
your eyes.
'cause
Remember what
equality,
those
you
people
think
look
equity.
like coming out of the fields carrying
No, it's
torches.
not the same thing.
Their veins bulging, spewing, and just spewing anti-Semitic
Spewing.
bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides.
Not true.
No president's ever
Finish
said
the
anything
statement.
like that.
Finish the
It
statement.
is who's
Now,
2
second-
minutes, sir.
Second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist
You just let me
hatred,
know, man.
racist division.
I'm
This
ready
is a
anytime
man
for
who, in
Thailand.
fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the
Everyone
is the
knows the
savior of
coronavirus is
African-Americans.
racist, people.
This man cares at all. This man's done virtually
He's
nothing.
literally saying,
Look, the fact is that you have
What is
to
he
look
saying?
at what he talks about. You
Donald
have
Trump's
to look
letting
at
black
what he
people
did.
die of
And
COVID.
what
Is
he
that
did has
the
been
point? I'm
disastrous
kind of
for
confused.
the African American community.
So
He's going to say
President Trump,
lowest
you have 2
unemployment
minutes. Why
ever.
should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with
he
racism?
did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've
That's
never forgotten
Hillary
it,
Clinton
Joe.
said that.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator. And I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw
is
what
true.
you did. You call them super predators,
Hillary
and
Clinton
you've
said
called
that,
them
not Joe
worse than
Biden.
that. Because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left
gosh.
supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe
Ugh,
that
what a
there is
gross
a
thing to say.
separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education, in work, and in law enforcement, and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable.
What are you talking
and what
about?
I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate, never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful
peaceful
protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not, but
asking-
you say it is.
President Trump, I'd
say.
like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order
Please.
in a moment.
Fine.
This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory.
Good.
Why did you
Strong
decide
support.
to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is
Because
systemic racism in this
Critical
country?
race
sir?
theory is
I ended it because it's
pretty
racist.
terrible.
I
It
ended it
is pretty
because a
racist.
lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our
I
military.
need to do a podcast on
in
critical
our
race theory
schools,
because it is
all over
is
the
a lot
place,
to
and you
unpack.
know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
is radical,
and he would know.
What is
Oh, it's
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training? sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly, very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go
You could probably
back
do a
to
better
the core
job of
values of
articulating
this
this.
country. They were
When you quit
teaching
messing with the
people
microphone.
that our country is a horrible place. It's a racist place. And they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm
No
not going to
one's
allow
doing
that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Nobody's doing that. He's
Oh,
the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about
You
this.
don't
than he
know.
does.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important to people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem.
There is, as
It's a
far as
little
I'm
bit
aware,
like
there is
how
no
this guy
good
and
data
his friends
that
look down
shows
on so
that
many
implicit
people. They look
bias
down their
or
nose
racial
on people
sensitivity
like
training has
Irish
any
Catholics
effect
like me and
whatsoever
grew
on the
up
way
in
people
Scranton. They look
manifest
down
their
on people
behavior.
who don't have
There's
money. They
no
look down
data
on
on that
people
whatsoever.
who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color.
I doubt that a
fact,
person
we're
has
all
ever, a
Americans. The only
racist
way
person has
we're
ever
gonna
sat
bring this
down
country together
and been
is bring
shown a
everybody
video
together. There's nothing
about
we cannot
why racism
do
is bad
if we
and said,
do
oh my
it together.
gosh, I
We
didn't
can
know.
take this on and we can defeat
Who knew?
racism
Vice
in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
But the
Lord.
reason
This
is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these
Absolutely
cities
ridiculous.
don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
violent
Are you in
crime.
favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow
Are
it
you in
and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
Yes, I'm
ahead.
in
say it.
favor.
You
Everybody's
asked a
in favor
question,
of
let him finish.
law and order.
Lose his
Law
left.
and
Let
order.
him, let him answer.
Law and order with justice where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is violent crime went down 17%. 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone
Which is
up on his
17 to
watch.
Went
15.
down
He-
much more
he
in
had-
ours.
All right,
What
we're
happened?
now.
He is
You're,
president of
Mr.
the
President,
United
you're going
States
to,
of America.
We
Mr.
were breaking
President,
every record in the
Mr.
book.
President, you're going to be very happy because
the
we're now going to
excuse
talk
me,
about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic-run cities.
That's
and
exactly
states.
my question.
Democratic-
There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America
Yeah.
this summer, particularly, and
When
you
you
often
demonize
blame
the
that on
police,
Democratic mayors and Democratic governors,
and
but
you
in fact,
make
there
that
have
so
been
that they have a hard time doing their job, you're going to see a spike in violent crime.
Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200% crime. It
Republican
is
cities.
crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't,
Republican
because
cities,
he'll lose
Chicago
his
and New
radical
York.
left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have
We would
our
run it
suburbs
the
would be
way-
gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
wouldn't
seen.
know
Right.
a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would
So
not.
much
I was
better.
Wait,
raised.
go ahead.
I was,
Wait a minute.
I was
So much better
raised in
than
the
he
suburbs.
He would know
This
the
is not
suburbs.
1950. All these dog whistles
What?
and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer
I don't think
practice
he's
and
saying
or
that the suburbs are going
black
to be
and white and
integrated.
Hispanic in the same
think people don't
car
want-
as there have been any time in the
I
past.
don't want
What really
governmental
is a threat
housing
to the
in their
suburbs and their safety
subdivisions.
is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being
I love
burned
how
out
they take a topic
because
like
his
law and order,
refusal to do anything.
and then they just
That's
talk about
why
whatever
the
the hell they
suburbs
want.
are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about,
He just
quote,
said what?
reimagining policing.
Yeah.
First of all, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support,
It means
let me, if I might finish the question, what does reimagining policing mean? And do you support
Nobody
the Black
knows.
Lives Matter
Nobody knows.
call for community control of policing?
look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face.
That even
Totally
mean?
opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police, the only one defunding in his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance.
Yeah,
They
the
need, when they
verbs.
show up for a 9/11
St. Louis
call,
is a
to have someone
very
with them as a
segregated
psychologist
city.
or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we have, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what
in
they're
prevent-
talking about,
That's-
Chris. That's
well,
not what
that-
they're
that's
He's talking
exactly-
about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any
Well,
law
Would you
support.
look?
He has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. That, look,
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go
Look,
ahead.
look.
Think. We have time.
we don't have time to do
No, no,
anything.
He literally will not
All
be
right,
Name
able to do
one
it.
law enforcement group that came out and
I
supported
think, gentlemen,
you,
I think
Joe.
I'm going to take back the
There aren't.
moderator's
I don't think
role,
there are any.
and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned
We're not
into
peaceful.
riots. Mr. Vice President, the question I have, though, is as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you'd stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear. I've made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted, and anyone who commits it.
But
should
you've
be
never called
prosecuted.
for the people,
He's never
the
said
leader.
that.
Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call and
Because
bring in
they-
the National Guard and knock
Well, no.
off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really?
here-
Oh, really?
Here's the
But
thing.
that's
Sent
nonsense.
in the
wait,
US
That's
I asked
absolutely
a question.
Marshals to
nonsense.
get the killer
No,
of the young man in the middle of the street. They shot him. And for 3
Mr.
days,
President Trump,
it's just-
Portland
President
wouldn't do
Trump,
anything. I
please
had to send
interrupt,
in
and
the U.S. Marshals.
President
They
Trump-
took care of business.
go ahead,
And,
sir.
and by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all
I
about.
don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that.
I don't-
And so here's the
All
thing.
right.
But here's the
I
point.
don't know if she said that or
Go
not.
ahead.
The point is that that's what he keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this.
Yeah, I'm sure
What's he do?
Portland,
He
Oregon
just pours
would
gasoline in the
really
fire
just calm down
constantly.
if
And
President
every
Trump
single
showed up and said,
solitary-
"Hey
Okay,
guys,
and-
let's all
and
get
to
along."
End this, button up this segment. I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly
Well, wait, I
criticized.
have to answer his
No,
statement.
you have
His statement.
repeatedly.
Wait,
You have
just 1
repeated. No,
second.
you've been talking
You
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
sir.
I would love to end it.
you know, if you
baby.
want to switch seats,
Oh,
We
baby.
could very quickly.
we can do that. But
I'd
I'm
send
no,
in the
I'm-
National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they
Good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly
That's true.
criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups
Sure.
and
Softball
to
question.
say that they
Softball
need
question.
to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do that,
specifically
but
do it? Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right
So
wing.
what do you?
No, all you got
what
to
do
say is white
say?
supremacy is
I'm
bad.
willing to
Say
do
white
anything. I
supremacy is
wanna
bad.
see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name. Go ahead.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to
supremacists.
condemn?
White
Proud Boys.
supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something
Softball
about
question, dude, and you
Antifa and the
missed-
left, because
you
this
missed
is
it.
not
Say
a right
white
wing
supremacy is
problem.
bad,
This
and
is
then
a
say
left-
Antifa's bad.
This is a left-wing
Go ahead.
problem.
What a
white
fumble.
Go ahead, sir.
supremacist. Antifa's an idea, not an
Oh,
organization.
you got it.
not militia. That's what
Oh, really?
his
It's an idea.
FBI, his
Okay.
FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
He
Well,
just
then
said
you know what?
Antifa's not an
we're done,
organization.
sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
Wow, they
Sure,
both are
that's
terrible
not
at this.
an idea.
All you have to say is
Everybody
white
in
supremacy is
organization
bad
tells
if
you
you're
the
Trump,
truth is a
and
bad-
you
is a
should
bad
just say,
idea.
"Hey,
Can I tell you
Antifa's
what?
not great
No
if you're
idea.
vice."
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen, we're
group,
now moving on to the Trump
and
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president
Wow,
seeks
that
a
was
second
really bad
term,
on both of
it
them.
is
Were
generally
really
a
bad right there.
referendum on
It was
his
so easy.
record.
All you got
But
to say
Vice
is,
President Biden, you
yeah,
like to
I don't
quote one
support
of your
those jokes.
dad's sayings, which is, "Don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative." And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent in this segment?
Never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe. And then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other
Space
things.
Force.
A fixing of the VA, which
We're
was
gonna
a
build a
mess
Death
under
Star.
him.
It's gonna have Trump's face on
308,000
it.
people died because they didn't have
Trump
proper
Star.
health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets, but we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings. And if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings. You can't be a good president. You can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term.
Time, sir.
300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both of your records, why should voters
I didn't realize
elect
that.
you president as opposed to President
Under
Trump?
this
You have 2
president-
minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused a recession. With regard to
He
being
didn't
weaker,
cause a
the
recession.
fact
That's
is
so
that
ridiculous.
I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin.
One of the
about
weird things about
bounty on
that
the
is
heads of
that the
American
actual
soldiers.
Your son got
policy
No.
$3.5
of Donald
million.
Trump is
And by the way,
Mr.
much
much
my
harder
son-
on
Wait a minute.
Russia,
Mr.
which is
President,
very strange.
your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word. Can
Because-
you add
No,
back
no,
He is
I'm
a
not
person
asking.
that's
That was
not
a
telling
rhetorical
the truth, that's
question.
all.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID.
When you say
You
it
in
like
the
that,
home,
it
you
sounds
got
like a
less.
lot, but in
You're in more
reality,
trouble than you
in
were
total
before.
actual money,
In terms of
that's just
being more
it's
violent.
like a few people.
When
who
we were in
made
office, there were
a lot of billions of
15%
dollars.
less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United
He
States.
said 15,
It's on his
17,
watch.
and then
And
13%
with
less
regard to
violence. I wonder
more
which one of those
divided,
numbers is right.
The nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being
Speaking of his
just
son.
being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent
No.
a year there. He got the Bronze Star.
His
He
other
got the
son.
Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind
Oh,
there
really?
were heroes.
Really?
And I
Are
resent
you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm
Hunter?
talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're
I
talking
don't
about
know. I don't
Beto.
know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah, you
Hunter
know
got
Bo.
thrown. Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably
That's true.
discharged.
That's not true. It
for
wasn't dishonorably.
cocaine use, and he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you
None of
became
that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made a
son-
fortune,
My
Gentlemen,
son,
and he didn't have a
my
job.
son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it.
He
He's
also
worked
has
on
an
it.
illegitimate
I'm proud of
child.
him.
But why
I'm
was
proud
he
of
given
my
They're
son.
not really
tens of millions
acknowledging
of
right
He
now.
dollars?
wasn't given
All right.
tens of
He
millions
was
of dollars.
given
That
tens
is
of
totally,
millions of
that's
dollars.
been
President
He was
totally
given millions of dollars
You've
by
already-
Ukraine.
you've already
That's
been
definitely
totally
true.
discredited.
we've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial
So do I.
subjects. Well, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make
I know,
a
but when
judgment call
somebody
here.
gets $3.5 million
Okay, right.
from the
Let's talk
mayor of
about-
Moscow,
let's
That
talk
is
about-
not
I think
true.
it's a terrible
That
thing.
report is totally
Why did he get
discredited.
it?
I
Mitt
think,
Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers'
Gen-
money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
I'd like to talk about
Like
climate
the
change.
So would I.
Burisma reports.
Okay.
Not Burisma.
The forest
like
fires in the West
whatever
are
they're called.
raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have displaced
climate change.
hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number
I was
of
also going to do a
Obama
podcast about the
environmental
California
records.
fires because they're
What do you
ridiculous
believe
that they're
about
blaming
the
climate
science
change.
of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to
It's a
everything else.
big deal.
The forest floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything
Admittedly
else.
Tinder.
You drop a sick forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have
believe-
cut.
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very
Do you
exciting
believe
for a lot of people.
that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of
I
this
think
planet?
a lot of things
just
do,
say
but I
yes.
think to an extent, yes. I think
Yeah.
to an extent, yes.
That's
But I
fine.
also think we have to
It's a fine
do better
answer.
management of our forests. Every year, I get the call.
There are about
California's
I have
burning.
5
California's
reasons
burning.
why
If
California's
that
on
was
fire right
cleaned,
now.
if you had
If
forest
you were going to
management,
blame
good
things for the
forest
California
management,
fires,
you
climate
wouldn't
change
be
would be
getting
like number
those
8
calls.
on the list.
You know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
That's burning down because of a lack of
sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you a plan which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars?
Well,
and
not
trucks?
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. And you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what
Damn.
would happen because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But in the case of
$3,500.
California, they've simply
No, but
ignored.
it would take a lot of cars
roadmap.
to be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way,
It's an
we're going to see
interesting
how
point.
that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me. Many people. The car
California
has
just
gotten so
completely
expensive because
outlawed
they have
gas-powered
computers all
vehicles
over the
in the next
place
15
for an
years,
extra
so
little bit
California
of
is going to
gasoline.
just continue to
And
run itself into the
and I'm
ground.
okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just
All right.
crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change. I also want to ask you about a concern.
I think we
You
have to get a
proposed
longer
$2
Ethernet
trillion
cord and just go
in
straight
green
into it. I'm on the
jobs.
Wi-Fi
You talk
right
about
now.
new
Not
limits,
that I
not abolishing,
live
but
stream
new
that often,
limits
but
on
it would be a good
fracking,
idea.
ending the use of
If I
fossil
wanna do it
fuels to
again.
generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong.
He's
number
absolutely
one.
right.
Number two, if in fact during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another.
I don't think that's true. I
Coal-fired
would
plant in
be
America.
incredibly
No one's going to build
skeptical
another
of him,
oil-fired plant
what
in
he just
America.
said.
They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035.
I don't know what
Not
that
only
means.
not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs.
The idea that we're
Not
going to
15
create
bucks
green
an hour,
jobs has
but
never been true.
prevailing
It
wage
didn't
by
work
having
when
a
we
new
tried to
infrastructure
incentivize
that, in fact, is
windmills and whatnot.
green. And the
Windmills.
first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had
Brazil right now?
the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you
Yes.
don't, then you're going to have
we just
significant
give Brazil a whole
economic
bunch of money. Is that blackmail?
What about the argument that President Trump basically says the balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, make sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's
He's
the deal.
talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip
Biden
down
plan.
buildings
and
and rebuild the building.
No,
It's the
that is
dumbest,
not-
most
that
ridiculous,
is not-
where airplanes are out of
Wait a minute,
business,
that's it.
where two-car systems are out, where they
Not
want to
true.
take out the cows too.
Not
That's not true either, right?
Not
This is
true.
a 100
Simply,
trillion.
look,
That's more money than
that
our
is-
country could make in
that is
100
simply
years if we're going
not
to.
the case.
All right, let
It
me
will destroy
because,
our
because I
country.
actually, wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs.
It's going to create
good-paying
thousands
jobs.
and then
Let him
millions.
finish,
It's going to
sir.
create millions
He
of
didn't know
jobs.
$100
They-
billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives
Governments
for
don't-
people to weatherize,
Government can't
which he
create
wants to
jobs.
get rid of.
Not
It's
true.
going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's
at all.
he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard.
Every time
good
he says we're
jobs
gonna
by
create
making
jobs, it's
sure
not
the
true.
environment is clean, and we
Kyle, you're going to
all
become
are
an
in better
expat,
shape. We spend
flee the country. Where would you like to
billions of
live
dollars now,
besides
billions
here?
of dollars
Places.
on floods,
I don't know where else I would go.
hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look
Joe
what's
Biden
happening
is
just in
gonna
the Midwest with these
Make more
storms that come
battery-powered
through and
cars
wipe
and
out
going to stop
entire
hurricanes. That's what I'm
sections and
getting out of
counties
this.
in Iowa. That didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen,
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do.
Indonesia.
We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple
little
of
sketchy there,
statements.
I hear.
The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
I want to
All
rebuild
right.
every.
If he knew
you have to-
anything
wait, no, no,
about,
wait.
if he knew
Gentlemen,
He
anything
made a
about,
statement
Gentlemen-
about the military. He said, I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
that is
What
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said-
this segment.
He called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
He did
He
say
said,
that on tape.
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
not
said
Sir,
it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
play it.
Stop.
Play it.
Go ahead.
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President
The,
answered his final question.
the final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm
was the
having a
final
little
question.
trouble- I'm having a little trouble
That's
myself. But,
Don't remember much.
and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the
the-
idea of what
the-
your
the
environmental
Green New
changes
Deal-
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward.
He's
You're
saying
not
the
gonna
Green
build
New Deal is going
plants
to
that,
pay
in
for
fact,
itself. That's
are
insane.
Great polluting plants.
So do you
We're gonna
support the
build
Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support
No, I don't support the Green
Oh,
New
you
Deal.
don't? Oh, well, that's a
You
big
let-
statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I
Let's
su-
go.
I support
Oh, you
the
don't?
Biden plan that I
The
put
Biden
forward.
Okay.
plan. What
The
is it?
Biden plan, which
Gonna
is
rebuild some
different than
buildings
what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment. Election
Oh
integrity.
my God, I
As
feel
we
like we've
meet
aged
tonight,
substantially.
millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election?
This is a
In this
scary
final
question.
segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Absolutely
Prepared to
scary
let
question.
people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security director, and as well as the FBI director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to
You get to be Mr.
make
Vice
sure they can
President for the
socially
rest of your
distance.
life.
The polls are open
Just like
on
Mr.
time,
President.
and the
Obama is still
polls stay
Mr.
open
President
until the votes are counted.
for forever.
And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person, vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, in fact, he says he's not sure what he's going to accept. Well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
Kyle, I'll vote for
So,
you.
When I
be
listened
my
to
vice
Joe
president?
talking about a transition,
I think you'd be a great vice
there's
president.
been no transition from when I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me
Oh,
spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our first lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country, and we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan
VP
Act
is the
against
cush
General Flynn.
job, man.
You better take a look at
You gotta
that
hang
because we
out.
caught
You don't really
you
have
in a
to do
sense.
anything.
And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This
The
is
White House
going
would
to
be a
be a
party if we
fraud
were
like
elected.
you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election.
We'd
And I
host
think we're going to do well because
the
people are really happy with the job we've done.
esports.
But you know what? We won't know.
from,
We
the
might
Rose
not know
Garden.
for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and
He's
other
got a
places.
point about these mail-in
They're
ballots.
not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud. And it's a shame.
New York and
can
New
you
Jersey
imagine
did have
where they
problems with
say
their mail-in ballots
you have
this
to have
last
your
election.
ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
Sir,
all run by
2 minutes
Democrats.
is 2 minutes.
All
You're-
run by
you're-
Democrats. It's
President
a fraud.
Trump,
It's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They They take them. We don't like them. We don't like them.
But
They
what are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left and
There are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What
is
are
you
gonna
go
do?
and vote. You do a solicited ballot,
No,
and
no,
that's
I'm not-
okay.
I know
Or
your
you go and
complaint. I'm
vote.
asking you about the fact that millions of people
You go
have
and
received-
vote. You go and
No,
vote
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are
like
you
they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is
Wow,
no.
This
the
is
Washington
not-
there is
Post just
no
emailed
This
me.
is
evidence
not
of
going to
that.
end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden-
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead, sir.
mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What we're saying is, they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because he
You're
knows what the
wrong.
outcome
You're
is.
wrong.
No,
I love
I want
counting
to
the votes.
continue with you on
I
this,
love
Vice
counting the
President Biden.
So
I
wrong
love
when he makes
counting
a
the
statement
votes.
No,
like that.
excuse me. Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years,
Basically,
with
if
mail-in
people
voting
mail in their
has not
votes
been
too
fraud
late,
historically.
then
It has been that
theoretically they might show up
sizable
after
numbers,
the
sometimes
election.
hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they
That can
missed
be fraud.
the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get it and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you when before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say that is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you
I
have
a final-
80 million ballots,
Gentlemen, I have a final
sending
question.
and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already
All
there's
right.
been
So now-
fraud.
Mail
deception.
service delivers
Wait a minute, gentlemen, in the
185
final
million
question
pieces
is-
of mail a day.
million
in 8
ballots.
states, we can keep talking.
It's
In 8 states, election workers are prohibited currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and
Yes.
flatten them until election day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
Could be months.
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other.
No,
Will
they're
we-
not,
This extended period
because they weren't
not
really
to
following the
engage
rules
in
very
any
well.
civil
Donald Trump
unrest,
wasn't,
and
at
will
least.
you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you
I'm
go first.
urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do. Today, there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They were called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair
You're urging
election,
them what?
I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you
what
what,
does that mean,
from a
not go
common
along?
sense,
Does that mean
I'll
you're going
tell
to
you
tell
what
your
it means.
people to take to
It
the
means you
street?
have a fraudulent election. You're
And what
sending
are you
out
gonna do?
80
And
million
what would you
ballots.
do
They're
about
not,
that?
they're not equipped to. These
Yeah.
people aren't equipped to handle it.
What is he
Number
talking
one.
about?
Number two,
Okay.
they cheat. They cheat. Hey,
All he
they
has to say
found
is
ballots
we
in
are
a
going
waste
to
paper
accept the
basket
results
3 days ago,
of an
and they
honest
all had the
election,
name
All right.
and
military
we're gonna
ballots.
make
They
sure
were
it's
military.
honest. That's
They
it.
all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. We count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until election day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process.
No, it's not the
honest.
same process.
No one
This
has
is the
established
problem.
at all that there is
There's a difference
fraud
when you're in the
related to
military or you
mail-in
request a
ballots,
ballot and they
that
send you a
somehow it's
ballot,
a
as
fraudulent
opposed to
So,
just when
Minister,
people
it's-
just
it's-
blanket
take a look
send
at
out
Carolyn
ballots.
Maloney's race.
There's a
I
big
wanna know.
difference
You had an
between
opportunity
Look
to
at
respond.
Carolyn Monroe.
Go ahead.
absentee
They have no
voting
idea
and
what
universal
President
voting.
Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome, and I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to
in
see an
fact,
honest
Okay,
ballot count.
Gentlemen,
We-
you say that's the end of
Chris,
it? This is the
I
end
wanna
of this
see an
debate?
honest ballot count.
We're
And I
gonna
think
leave
he
it
does
there.
too.
To be
he
continued
does.
as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th.
Oh no.
At the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris,
Oh my
will
gosh.
debate
I
at
hope
9
he
p.m. Eastern
destroys
that
her.
night. We
I
hope you
can't stand
watch.
her.
Until then, thank you and good night.
All right, let's close that.
Thank you.
Wherever that guy was getting paid for that, he was not making enough. So I don't know. That was just overall, a bunch of nonsense. Trying to get this thing to close. My computer's running very slow. Apparently, my computer is not made to live stream. That's for sure. About that performance. Are you gonna do it? Are you gonna switch over to what you should be doing? I don't know. Maybe. All right, there we go. I don't know. That was an especially dumb debate. That's for sure. I don't know if they're going to be any better. I think that they're all going to be fairly bad. They just had no hope of keeping Donald Trump in order. That's for sure. He clearly just came to talk the entire time. He didn't look very good in this debate. I don't know. Joe Biden did okay. Well, actually, so right now, next time you can stream some PUBG. Yeah, PUBG would probably be more entertaining. No, so I'm actually not using anything right now to stream. I had the YouTube thing open to stream through here, and I was using the Logitech thing, which is what I normally use to record the podcast. Bring this down, but it runs a little slow trying to live stream. Also, I think I need a bigger Ethernet cord. If I get a better Ethernet cord, I think it'll work a little bit. I'm off the Wi-Fi right now, which is why it's slowing down. I don't know. What'd you think? What do you think? Who sounded better, Trump or Biden? I'm curious what people think of the end result there. Because I thought, I don't know, Trump didn't sound great. He didn't have a lot. He had a couple good zingers, which stand out in debate, but nothing great. And overall, he just sounded real whiny. I don't know. I didn't love it. Joe Biden, I criticized his performance a lot. Yeah, somebody just texted me. I need to switch to elite Wi-Fi. Yeah, that sounds true. They both did sound like clowns. Yeah, Joe Biden, he actually. So here's where the bar was set for Joe Biden. For Joe Biden, all he had to do was basically sound like he didn't have dementia. And he wins. And so everyone tomorrow is going to declare Joe Biden the winner because he actually sounded like he didn't have dementia. And that'll be what they all say tomorrow. Joe Biden will be unanimously declared the winner because he managed to sound conscious. He stayed awake the entire time. Joe Biden wins. I didn't like what he was saying. I didn't love a lot of his answers. He did better than I thought he would do, and Trump did worse than I thought he would do. I really thought he would kind of smack Biden around a little bit, and he didn't. They both didn't say much of anything productive. Joe Biden did a good job of saying Trump's bad a whole bunch. He's bad. He killed people with COVID, and he's racist. But he didn't say how he would fix anything. When he was talking about COVID, he didn't say how he'd fix COVID at all. He didn't say how he was going to fix racism. He said, racism's bad. I'll fix it. Okay, Joe. I'm sure you will. He'll be the one. So I don't know. Overall, meh. They both are bad. I guess it's what we should have all expected at this point. Who knows? All right. Anyway, I think I'm going to end it there. Kyle, appreciate all the commentary going back and forth with you. And Kristen, you as well. All the other people who stopped in and out. I don't know how many unique visitors we had, but I think, a couple, especially for a last minute live stream. It's not bad, even if it was only, 15, 16 people. Not a lot, but it was cool anyway. Anyway, we're going to end it there, guys. Again, appreciate you. GG. Get them dubs, Kyle. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. End the stream.